Hello, what's up people? Alright, so today in this video, right, I want to address a little issue with some of you guys out there, mainly casual players, alright, on how much DPS do you actually really need. Okay, because I have people coming to ask me like on Discord. I won't name who, okay, because yes, a bit embarrassing sometimes. Some of them are newbies and whatsoever, but it's okay. It's all part of the learning process, right? The step to learn. Um, First of all, the most common question I get is why does other people POB the DPS is like 100 million? Is it possible to reach there? Does that mean like I'm gonna melt bosses in one shot? The answer is you do not need so much DPS. Okay, 100 million is overkill. It is really overkill. Okay, you can have 1000 million DPS or whatsoever, but if your defensive layers are shit, you are still gonna get one shot by them, and basically you're dealing no damage. Right? Here I'm just gonna address the issue of how much DPS you really need. In three different scenarios. Alright. First of all, normal mapping. Secondly, boss fights. I am going to take Cyrus as an example, and then the Uber bosses, and I'm going to use Uber Cyrus as an example. Alright, you can just picture any other bosses you want, but they are probably all around the same level. Okay, so I'm going to use a POB to showcase this. And I'm just going to use my very high budget for the Occultist Blade Vortex. As you can see, right, this is just normal mapping. In the configuration there is no reduction or whatsoever. Is the enemy a boss? No. So basically this is your normal map. Okay, in your normal map, right, I would say 17 million is a bit too much. Okay, when you have 10 million, honestly it is already overkill. It is already overkill. About 5 million is a good benchmark for you for mapping. Okay, and the next thing in relationship to this I want to address is some people are asking me why, even though I have like 10 million or 15 million DPS, I still have some problems with like rare monsters or bosses. Okay, so I can only think of two scenarios. One is you use the Eater of World altar or the Syrian Exarch altar and you buff the minions way too much. In a sense that, let's say if I'm playing a cold damage build and you keep adding on elemental resistance to it or cold resistance, basically they become very tanky because they are having reduction damage in cold. Okay, cold reduction damage. Sorry, what am I talking about? Okay. So yes, that is one cause. The other one, if it's regarding bosses, then again the altar is kind of helping them to buff up, which means you are hitting them much lesser. Okay, so this is the first scenario. The second scenario is because of the Arch Nemesis modifiers that give them additional resistance or physical damage reduction whatsoever, and that is why when you are actually playing the actual game, you are not dealing as much damage. So maybe in, let's say if you see rare monster number 1, okay, you can kill it in like maybe, I don't know, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And then you see another rare monster number 2, like further on later into the map, and you can hit it for like 20 seconds and it is still like only halfway through, right? So the only reason is probably they have a lot more resistance in respect to your build's damage output. Okay, so I'm gonna take cold resistance for example again, and cold damage, sorry. And if you actually encounter a monster that has a cold Arch Nemesis modifier, they are going to have additional cold resistance. Okay, I can't remember the exact number, but I think at least 40%. Okay, so 40 and 50%, and you might encounter enemy, a monster that has double of this cold resistance, which makes them resist to cold damage really very high. Okay, and you do not have a curse or hex that actually reduces this a lot. So let's just say for example Frostbite and elemental weakness, okay? Maybe you do not even have this, you are actually using a mark like my previous COC assassin. Basically, I'm only using one mark and there is no frostbite or no elemental weakness. So basically, you're doing the highest, most damage at your peak, but let's say if the enemy has 80% cold resistance, okay, if I'm dealing 1 million damage, okay, 80% cold resistance, which means I'm only dealing 200k. So you can see that the gap, right, is really very big, and this is probably the reason why you are not dealing as much damage as the first rare monster, okay? So that explains for mapping, okay? Mapping only 5 million DPS and you probably need some skills that can actually penetrate all this resistance, okay? Resistance for elemental, and then physical damage, I think is just overwhelming, okay? Overwhelm physical damage. Okay, and next one. So we have covered for normal mapping, and now for standard bosses, right? I can tell you for standard bosses, it is when I say standard bosses, it means like maps. Okay, in normal maps, you basically just have 5M damage or maybe around 1 more M. Is more than enough. Okay, it's more than enough. As you can see over here, right? Actually, POB already shows you like what is the reduction on like your curse effect on the boss resistance and how much more damage they are dealing, right? So you can see for standard bosses, there is 40% to enemy elemental resistance and then 25% to enemy chaos resistance, alright? And you have 33% less effect of your hexes, okay? And then now let's go to Guardian Pinnacle bosses. These are your like Shaper Guardians, your Elder Guardians, your Cyrus Guardians, and let's just take Pinnacle bosses as Cyrus, okay? For Cyrus, I would say you only need about 3 to 4 MDPS, okay? 3 to 4 MDPS after the reduction, okay? Do not forget this is because there's a reduction for it. Otherwise, I'm 17 million, you see. So for reduction wise, I would say about 3 to 4 million, it is more than enough. You do not need such a high DPS because it involves, when you fight like this kind of bosses, it involves understanding the boss mechanics and stuff, okay? You do not need to just go in and one-shot him. That's ridiculous. You are not expected to do that, okay? Unless you are like a super really hardcore player that, you know, like one of the guys you mentioned, you have 100 million, okay? Let's say if you really have 100 million, then that's really ridiculous. Probably you're just gonna one-shot him. But I would say, where is the fun in it? Okay, if you're gonna one-shot the boss like this, I think there is no fun in it. There's no interaction with the game. You are literally just killing the game. Okay, I think you can just go play some Maple Story or whatsoever shit. Okay, and yes, for Cyrus, you just need 3 to 4 MDPS and you need to know the boss mechanics. And I think whenever a new boss comes up, that is where the fun actually begins. Where you kind of understand the boss patterns, you understand where the boss will go, his movements, and what kind of mechanics that you are required to know to actually defeat the boss. Alright? And next, for Uber Pinnacle bosses, same, okay? This is actually the same. I would say you require around 3 to 4 million DPS. It's good enough. Basically, right, their HP is I wouldn't say as good as the same, but it is almost similar. Okay, it's almost similar. It is not like it's just there is like times 100 more HP for Uber Pinnacle bosses. It is because they are Uber Pinnacle bosses that you are getting a damage reduction. So you can see, right, based on the POB, it's listed really very good. 66% less effect of your hexes. Okay, 50% to enemy elemental resistance, 30% to enemy chaos resistance, 100% to enemy armor. Okay, this is actually quite important because 100% will mean they will have more physical damage reduction as compared to let's say Pinnacle bosses. You see, it's only 33%. Okay, so let's say if they are, okay, I'm just quoting an example. Alright, let's say if their physical damage reduction is 50%. Plus 33% will probably mean like, I think 60% plus minus around there. And Uber Pinnacle bosses is just nuts, okay? You probably go up to 80 to 90% because it's 100% to enemy armor. And then you have 70% less damage to enemy damage taken. Okay, this is flat upright, straight from your DPS. So if you are dealing 1 million damage, 70% less, basically you're only dealing 300k. And then from there onwards, you will take effect of like 100% to enemy armor, resistance, and whatsoever. Okay, so yes, for Uber Pinnacle bosses, I will say about 3 to 4 damage. And that will be the end of this topic. I just want to let all the casual players know out there that DPS is not everything, okay? If you have 10,000s of DPS but you have shit defense, the boss is probably just going to touch you and you're just dead, okay? Don't even need to touch you. Like any of his DOT effect on the ground or anywhere, or even if it's global effect or something like that, you're probably just gonna die like one shot if your defense are really, really shit. So that is why I always emphasize like you need to cap your resistance, you need to have as much armor, alright, and then have a decent life pool. Alright, decent life pool meaning around 4,000 plus. Around 4,000 is the best. If you can have more than that, then that's good. Of course, the more the better. And yeah, DPS bench hold trench mark. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly list down over here. For normal mapping, you probably need 5M. Okay, 5M is enough. Okay, so yes, another thing, why 5M is because let's say if you want to do 100% delirious, okay, you can see it's really, really bad. Okay, it's really, really bad. When you are 100% delirious, basically they take 96% less damage, right? And this is incredibly a lot. Like the damage reduction is really, really a lot. This is flat damage reduction. Okay, 80% is slightly much better. Wait, did I? Oh, 80% is the same. Wait, what? Why is it all the same? Okay, never mind. Whatever it is, I know that as long as you increase the delirious percentage, it gets harder. It's because you are dealing less damage. It's not because they are stronger. Alright, so just take note of that. Okay, back to the topic. So normal mapping, just around 5M plus minus. Okay, because you might actually encounter really, really hard arch nemesis monsters, especially for the upcoming patch 3.19, where you actually might encounter a 4 mod arch nemesis monster, and just good luck, have fun with that. Okay, there is really nothing else I can say, just good luck, have fun. If you are lucky, you might meet some really trash mod arch nemesis monster, but if you are unlucky, then you can encounter the mod that just kills you. Alright, so a very good example is probably what is that? Let's just say Sentinel plus Chaos Weaver plus maybe Haze, and then another of the tanky mod, and then you will just be like, holy shit, this monster just can't die. Alright. Okay, for boss Cyrus, DPS 3 to 4M. Okay, this is more than enough. Okay, this should be enough. And boss Uber Cyrus also 3 to 4M. Okay, so when I say 3 to 4M, do remember that this is after the reduction. So always reduce it. And that applies to all my other budget builds as well. Okay, I'm just going to show you. Let's just take the high budget. Okay, as you can see, my high budget Blade Vortex, right? It has about 30 million DPS. Okay, I'm going to change the configuration now. For Pinnacle Guardian bosses, I have 7 million. It is more than enough. Okay, but as you can see, if I were to try and fight Uber Pinnacle bosses, right, I would not. I will say you might struggle a bit. You might die a bit because you will like probably have some mistakes here and there. I don't expect you to be 100% perfect, but yes, you might struggle a bit because the longer you stay in the area, right, the harder it is to fight the boss, because eventually your flask will run out. Alright, that's why I keep the damage around 3 to 4 million, because you will need to know when to use your flask to engage the boss and when to bail out from him and recharge or cool down, refill yourself whatsoever. Take a step back, and then when you are ready, then go back in to engage him again. Alright, so as you can see, this high budget, I might have a bit of problem with the Uber Pinnacle bosses. Okay, yes, and that is why I say that I'm not sure if I have mentioned, but those mid-budget builds, right, it is not possible to fight the Uber Pinnacle bosses. Like, dude, I don't even have 1 million DPS. I'm probably just gonna tickle him, you know. Every 1 hit is equals to, no, every 4 hit of this, or 5, is gonna be equals to like 1 hit of my very high budget build. Right, so you can see how many times I need to like hit him to actually deal that decent amount of damage. Okay, for Pinnacle bosses, it is actually still decent. Okay, it is really decent. You can actually start trying to attempt to kill them. I would say it's no problem for my Blade Vortex. Alright, it might not apply to every single other builds. Okay, yeah, just a little bit of reference for threshold. Okay, I hope you guys understand better. There is really no need for extremely high DPS, alright? Unless you are really trying to hit like the top bot of PoE Ninja, trying to, you know, show off yourself that you are the highest DPS for this class, for this build, then that is probably another set of achievement that you're trying to achieve right here. Alright, thanks guys. I'll be posting the rest of the POB and the build guide for the new league. I'll see you again